Can you guys do a quick one question take so we can get
so you grew up in Africa?
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
I grew up with a bunch of hyenas.
I heard about that.
Yeah.
Let's move on to more interesting.
Okay.
Besides the fact that you moved. Okay, so what was your favorite hyena?
Yeah, Bobby.
Bobby.
This is some sort of inside joke, right?
No,
Oh, really? It sounded like you had
I know he's laughing.
you're talking about these for years or something. Oh, Bobby, right? You know.
Hello guys, I'm Spleen and today we're talking with Popelier, a Japan-based artist who is opening his own gallery in Osaka, Japan. And welcome. So, how are you doing, Warren?
All right. How are you?
Doing fine.
All right.
When did you know that you wanted to be an artist?
I don't think I ever knew I wanted to be an artist.
Okay, for example, any moment when you were growing up when you saw art or that you thought, I'd like to do something like that.
Yeah, there was that point like did happen, and that would have been when we moved to Cairns in Australia. There's a big art community in Cairns, and we met a lot of good people there. And I started getting involved and started joining group shows and things like that.
And that was about what age?
That would have been when I was 40.
Okay, so you really didn't get involved in the art community until you were 40?
Yeah, pretty much. I never kind of thought of it as something serious. It was, I was always drawing. I did professional, like commercial art, animation, illustration, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I never kind of thought being an artist.
Okay, we're going to go back in time in a minute, but first I want to talk about your current paintings, the star paintings.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you get this all the time, but why stars?
I started out with the stars in 1998. My wife asked me to do a painting for an apartment we moved into in Sydney.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, I want something just colourful and decorative, really. So I was just thinking of it just popped into my mind, the star, 5-pointed star. And I just went with that theme. And I created the painting, the universe. And yeah, I just stuck with it. It's a dynamic symbol, but easy to recognize. Everybody knows this 5-pointed star wherever you go. It's been used so many different ways, and you see it everywhere now. But later on I realized it has much more meaning to it, the actual star.
I have limited knowledge about art, but would you refer to that style as pop art in a sense?
Other people have referred to it as pop art, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't really care.
The reason I say that is because when I first saw the first star painting that I saw of yours, I was instantly, I liked it instantly. And it's not abstract, and it's not something like a landscape or a still life where you identify what it is. It's just a star, but it was the colors and the impact it had on me.
Right.
And then I followed you doing the star series over the years, and I noticed that you started to put deeper elements into the stars. Can you tell me about that?
Well, yeah, that's kind of like I did some research and found a deeper meaning to the star, its origins. It actually originates from ancient Egypt. There's one of the Egyptian goddesses, Subdet, had a star symbol above her head. She sometimes also has a triangle, a sharp point, and she represents Sirius, the star Sirius. And so there was kind of, I realized, oh, there's much more to this star that we all take for granted. It's everywhere and stuff. And then also coming back to Japan this time, I know this is not a lot of serious messages or something to think about in a lot of the artwork I see in galleries, especially in Osaka. A lot of it's just decorative, you either like it or you don't, and people seem quite happy doing that. But in that respect, as you said, my paintings are kind of decorative also, so my paintings are going to get lost in that, I think. So I thought, taking that this star has a deeper meaning or deeper origins than I thought, then maybe I should do the same in my artwork. I should bring some messages or some deeper meaning to it.
And some of those are political, right?
Yeah, I kind of do a little commentary, but not too obvious, because otherwise I get into trouble.
Some of them are now darker in theme.
Yeah, that's right.
Overall.
Yeah. So I'm trying to. I don't want to give a message which is too obvious. I want to be subtle, because I want people to kind of like get it themselves. I don't like to lead people. Like, you know, you should be thinking about this about my work. This is what it's about. I want you to think about that the same way. I want people to make up their own minds about the work. You know, I still believe that, you know, as you just said about your first painting you saw of mine, you said you liked it. And that's the reaction that I want to have. You know, you like it or you don't like it, right? Then after that, if you want to find a deeper meaning to it, then that's up to you,
right?
But that's what.
Okay. You mentioned Australia. Let's go back and talk about. So you were born in Australia.
I was, yeah.
And then tell me, where did you move? And
when I was 5, my family moved to the UK, which is where I grew up.
Okay.
So I was 5 years old and 21 years living in the UK.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then Japan?
Then Japan, that's right, for the first time.
And why did you come to Japan for the first time?
The first, because I was invited to come here. I met a woman in London. We were dating for a while, and she came back to Japan. And before she left, she said, "Why don't you come and visit me in Osaka?" So I was like, "Yeah, okay, why not?" So I did.
Okay, and that lasted a couple of years.
You were here for about 4 years, just over 4 years.
You got married during that time?
We did. We got married, yeah.
Great. Then at some point you decided, after around 4 years, that you wanted to go back. You wanted to leave Japan.
Well, my wife just said one day, she said, "You know, we're still young enough to go and live in another country. Why don't we do that?" And I thought she was thinking about going back to London.
Okay.
And I was like, "I don't want to go back to London." And she says, "Well, you're Australian. Let's go and live in Australia. How about Sydney?" And I was like, "Okay, yeah, sure. Let's do that."
Wow.
You know, I had relatives in Sydney
Okay.
at that time, so yeah, we did that. Went to Sydney for 6 years almost.
And any art happening at that time?
Yeah, I was working I was doing a pin badge design for sponsors of the Sydney Olympics.
Pin badge.
Yeah, little pin badges, you know.
Okay.
And then after that, I worked for a Japanese company which made video slot machines.
Interesting. So that would be graphic art?
Yeah, it was all all the graphics on slot machine and all the animations, all that kind of thing.
Okay, so digital art.
Yeah.
And was that fulfilling? Was that something that was...
In the beginning, it was very interesting because I was learning lots of new things. 3D software, for example, how to do 3D modeling and all that kind of stuff. And then it was actually, I kind of felt it was like the first proper job I had. I remember I had my own phone next to my desk. I had my own parking space, even though I didn't have a car. I was very excited about that though. And but that got taken away from me because I didn't have a car. But anyway, it was a first kind of proper job. It was a very big company. And it was very exciting. Learned lots of things. But I did leave that industry for a few years, and then we came back to Japan. And then someone I used to work with there started his own company, and then contacted me. Would like to do freelance stuff.
This is back when you were in Japan.
Yeah, I came back to Japan. And so I did do freelance work for about 6 years, but the thing about slot machines is it can be interesting, it can be fun, but morally it's not very good because, you know, a lot of people are addicted to gambling. And
Interesting.
what
So
I do precipitates that, or facilitates that.
interesting. So you kind of were conflicted, even though you're doing something.
Because there are certain things we have to do in the graphics and certain colors and things we can use to encourage people to gamble more.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So you'd like to be a cigarette advertising executive or something.
Kind of.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you didn't really, the work itself you liked, but you didn't.
Well, it was good money, and I was good at it.
Okay.
But it's not gonna, doing that kind of work is not gonna get you into heaven.
Okay. So you came back. Okay, so you're back in Osaka.
Yeah.
What year was
That would
this?
be 2003.
2003. What did you do for a living?
I went back to teaching. I was teaching the first time I was here, and I just went straight back to teaching.
Okay.
I did a few paintings, but just for fun by myself, you know, just for myself. But yeah, just hanging out, and that's the time that we met.
Okay.
Around the second time I was here, we met, and we started doing. We were doing bad English
We
together.
were doing a comic strip together for Japan Zine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost 2 years we did that.
Yep. Did a podcast as well
Yeah.
during that time, right?
Yeah,
Same
that's
period.
right. Same time.
Okay. So you're just not, you're doing some art, but you're not really.
Yeah, the only kind of commercial thing was what we did
Okay.
with bad English, and then I also did the Hanshin-san comic strip as well.
Okay.
But yeah, in terms of painting, like fine art, no, not really.
And the stars had not started.
Yeah, they had started,
They had
but
started.
I wasn't doing it
Right.
that much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you went back to Australia.
Back to Australia in 2007, as I mentioned earlier, went to Cairns because my wife was transferred to Australia for work, and yeah, met a lot of good people, a lot of artists, and that's where interest in kind of like, oh, maybe, you know, doing art, how could I say, more often, and taking part in exhibitions and stuff, that all came about then.
Okay, that goes back to when you were saying you were 40 when you.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Okay. Then I'm assuming that your output increased in terms of your
Yeah,
painting,
yeah, I did.
and you were still working mainly on the Stars series.
That's right, yeah.
Okay, did that, and then what was the reason that you finally came back to Japan?
We were planning to retire here, but due to circumstances to do with work, the way that our lives are going in Australia, we didn't feel like we were going anywhere. We were just kind of like treading water, so we kind of thought, why don't we come back to Japan earlier than we planned? You know, I was working at the airport security.
Airport security.
Yeah. You
Like the
don't-
TSA kind of thing.
Yeah, you don't want to do that job. Right, it's the worst job I've had in my life.
Why?
It's just so frustrating, depressing, and just all negative feelings around airport security. Because you got to imagine, the passenger comes to the airport, they check in, but these days a lot of check-in is automated, especially domestic travel, and they can't work the little kiosk machines, and they can't find anybody to help them, so they get frustrated.
I see.
Then they got to drop off their luggage automatically as well. They don't know how to do that, they get frustrated. So you imagine, by the time they get to airport security, they're in a really good mood, right? And who do they take it out on? The person behind the counter in the uniform. But you see, the person behind the counter, they push back because they see this every day. And there's ways for airport security to make a passenger's life hell.
What was the most challenging aspect of that job?
In the beginning, you see, I'd spent like 6 years basically working by myself at home, so I don't meet anybody really. I didn't meet anybody except like online, and suddenly I went from that to meeting everybody. Everybody from the entire world coming through the airport. That was a shock. Plus it's shift work, so sometimes you start at 2:45 in the morning and you go through till the early afternoon. Sometimes you start late afternoon, go all the way through to 11:30 at night. So with this shift work, you end up just being jet lagged all the time.
Wow.
I'm just tired all the time.
Wow. And it's just stressful because nobody says, hey, how you doing?
Well, it's funny, you know, you've been American, right?
Right.
It's actually, American soldiers were the most polite.
Okay.
Every time a Marine or someone came through, or they're obviously on a holiday or going somewhere, but they were sometimes wearing fatigues, I would say, any aerosols in your bag? They go, no sir! Like that. It's okay, right, on your way.
No, sir, firm, but...
Yeah, but you know, in a polite,
But
respectful
sir.
ways. No sir. It's like the only people who just call sir. Everyone else is like, no, not any, you know?
Okay, interesting. So you're sick of that, you come back and you're...
Well, the thing is, going back to
Yeah.
the art stuff, and it's actually at the airport, as a kind of therapy of working at the airport, I started to evolve my art. I started to paint more and started evolving my technique and thinking about what I was doing more with the stars and the color combinations. And then I made a whole bunch of paintings, which then a friend of mine asked me if I'd like to have an exhibition at his gallery in 2014.
Wow.
And so then I had my first solo exhibition in Brisbane.
Wow.
And the thing is, would I have produced those paintings if I'd not been working at the airport?
Interesting.
Probably not. Right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
It was cathartic.
Yes, that's the word I was looking for.
Wow. So, yeah, I want to actually talk about that because they're not just paintings, right? There are collages as well. I mean,
That's
there's
right,
a lot of
yeah.
elements in there.
Yeah.
So when someone sees the digital version, they don't really see
That's right, yeah.
everything.
Yeah, I think that, yeah.
There's texture.
Yeah.
to
Which
it.
was in the beginning. See, the first painting I did, it was just flat block color. And I did flat block color paintings for a while, till about maybe 2005, something like that. But it started to get boring for me, and I wanted some subtle texture in it, and I just got this idea in my head. I would cut up newspaper and then paste newspaper onto the canvas and then paint on top of that,
Wow.
and then get some kind of a gritty effect with some of the paint missing or something as a brush on
Right.
it, you know, get this kind of like, it's not unfinished look. Some people said like antique look,
Right.
you know.
I've noticed that, and I noticed that some of them are quite big, and I can only imagine the hours it takes to put those together. I just can't even imagine.
It's funny, the actual preparation time is like 10 times longer than actually painting. Putting all the newspaper on, cutting it up, gluing it on and everything, all that takes so much time. Painting, and then masking up the areas, actually using
Right.
masking tape to mask out the stars, that all takes time. But actually using the brush or the paint, sometimes just seconds, that's
It's
it.
the prep. But it's very precise prep. Obviously,
Yeah.
you have to be.
That's right.
I mean, when you look at them, you don't want your star to be
Right.
jagged.
That's true. Because that is very true. I'd like this contrast between I spend all this time making the lines of the edges of the stars sharp and everything, but then I'm quite happy to have bits of paint missing or kind of little rough
Right.
bits coming in. So I like the contrast.
But still, it's interesting to me because I'm not a very patient person. Like, for example, when I'm creating a piece of music or something, I want to hear it within a matter of hours. I want to hear it more or less what it's going to be. But what you're doing is you're visualizing what it's going to be, doing all of that prep
Yeah.
and lots of hours, and then you get the payoff at the very end.
Yeah.
Is that how it
Yeah.
works?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. Because like color combinations of the paint, I sometimes decide before I'm going to paint what the color combinations. I might just get the paints out and just get the tubes and just move the tubes around. Okay, this one's going to go together with that, that's going to go together with that. But you're right though, the kind of, I don't know what it's going to look like until I actually finish it.
That must be the moment of joy when you're like, okay, then you pull the paint off.
Sometimes kind of, yeah, sometimes like, fucking hell, I'll finish it at last. Right?
I see.
I actually have one painting in the exhibition this month, which is called Finally. And it's only called Finally because I finally finished it because it took so long. That's the only reason. You
That's
know.
funny. Okay, let's talk about your gallery because you know, we're sitting here in this part of the gallery, which you call
The Salon,
Okay, and then the other down the hall there's the big,
the main gallery.
the main gallery, and this is a big endeavor and something I have not heard other foreigners trying to do in Japan. What made you decide to have your own gallery?
Well, there have been foreigners, owners before in Osaka. They're not around at the moment, unfortunately. My wife and I talked about this years ago, that the best thing for an artist is have their own gallery. So we had this idea for many years, but we just couldn't find the right place. But then this place came up, just the right time, the right conditions, and because of coronavirus, our life has changed. So we have to work out, what we're going to do in the future. So the location is good. So when the tourists come back, we'll be in a good spot for tourists to come and visit us, visit the gallery. Because what I want to do with the gallery, I don't want to just focus on local Kansai artists. I want to also bring in artists from Australia to start with and have their exhibitions here, introduce Australian artists to Japanese audience, and vice versa. I want to actually have through doing interviews with artists and using YouTube, etc. I want to introduce Japanese artists to a non-Japanese audience of
that's great.
International audience.
And you can do that through the gallery itself. Plus, you mentioned YouTube.
I think there's like these days a lot more opportunity to connect on a bigger scale.
Okay, now what about the business end of it? Obviously, that's got to be a factor.
Yeah.
How does a gallery make money?
Well, you can go down two routes. You can be a rental space, and you can just rent out the space to artists, and they'll have and it's basically just churn them out like a conveyor belt, production line, 3, 4, 5 days, 6 days, just go like that. And the gallery owner will make money from the rental, also make money, a little bit of money on commission from sales, but a lot of those exhibitions don't sell very much, so they're making most of their money from just renting their gallery out to artists. And then you have the other one, which is more high-end, where the galleries take a much larger commission on works they sell. And so, but I don't want to be predominantly a rental space. I don't want to be a conveyor belt, just churning things over, because you just have to put any old rubbish up on your wall then. I don't want to do that. I want to be some kind of quality control, but I don't know the right artist to be up the high end. So I want to be somewhere in between.
Okay. So that is you want to break even, of course, at least.
Yeah, of course.
That's the idea, but it's also for those other reasons. Speaking of other reasons, you were talking to me earlier about possibly using this particular space right here to do other things.
Yeah, something like maybe music.
Music, possibly.
Some kind of performances. I was thinking maybe some kind of performances with maybe some visuals or something, and then maybe recording that and putting it online somewhere. Maybe some kind of, after Corona is gone, hopefully we can have groups of people together.
Right.
So maybe use the main gallery to have like a movie night sometimes.
Yeah, you were talking about that. You were talking about the fact, and I never thought about this before, that you don't always have art showing in the gallery space, and so it's just sitting there.
Yeah.
And you want to use that space for movie nights or other kinds of gatherings and things.
Yeah. Something like that. There's no reason why a gallery should just be showing art. It's a space with white walls. You can use it for many different things. Okay.
Now, going back just a bit. Actually, you just finished the 5th year of Parade of Fools.
Yeah.
Now, this is going to be tough, but tell the audience what exactly is Parade of Fools.
I've told this so many times.
I know it's tough because I've tried to explain it too, and people are like, what?
It's not rocket science.
I know. Tell us.
Okay. How can I say? Okay, we were talking about this the other day, right? Parade of Fools is kind of like a polyamorous relationship. Okay, you've got two partners, but you don't see both partners at the same time. So you're going to see one partner and you're going to do a portrait of that partner. And then another time you're going to see the other partner and that partner is going to do a portrait of you. And that's it. There's not a threesome because you don't get together.
Right.
It's
But it's done in groups of 3, and
basically it is a triangle.
And these are artists who have not met each other before.
Some have met each other before. because all the names go into a box, and I draw the names out one at a time. And so your name comes out, the following name is your partner.
Okay.
And the name before you is the person, also your partner, who's going to do your portrait.
Okay, so they meet, these, let's say, let's simplify it. Two people meet, and
Yeah.
the person, if I'm doing your
Portrait.
I will talk to you, we'll chat,
That's
have
the
some
idea.
coffee, have a drink or whatever.
That's right, that's
I'll
the
get to know
idea.
who you are, and then I'm going to make a piece of art based on...
That's the idea. The idea is to get people to hang out together and spend time together, because Japan is very much a society of small groups, and small groups that don't meet each other. And so this is an event where people can leave their small group if they wish to and join another group which is composed of people from other groups, and they exchange ideas, hang out with each other. And after the event's finished, they want to go back to their group. This is fine, I have no problem with that. You know, but I just want this kind of people are not kind of, you know, they say they're connected through social media, but they're not really connected at all, you know?
You force them to connect.
Well, basically, I mean, force sounds a bit strong, but that's what they have to do. You know, I encourage them to spend time with their model and find out about them, hang out with them. And they do. I ask them to, when they meet, to take a photograph together. And I really enjoy getting the photographs, because then, you know, seeing the people hanging out together, because that's the event working there,
I see.
I feel.
You're bringing people together that normally would maybe not be hanging out together.
That's right.
And then the artist created, you display the art, and then there are, let's just simplify it to the two main awards
The
are
Grand Fool
Grand Fool,
and the People's Fool.
People's Fool. Tell us what those are.
The People's Fool is the vote. Anyone who goes to the gallery can vote on their favourite portrait. And the Grand Fool is chosen by some judges. And I tell the judges not to look just at technique, but to look at the portrait, and can they see a story? Can they see personality? Can they see character about the model?
Okay.
You know, it's important that it's portrayed in that artwork. I don't want explanations next by. If you have to explain it with text, then what's the point of having a portrait, an artwork? Let me just write it down.
Okay. So Popelier, thank you very much for speaking with us today. It's been a lot of fun. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for watching today, and I hope you enjoyed it. I did. And I would like to thank Spleen for coming along and giving us... I'm gonna punch you in the...
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna start again. Can I do it again?
Yeah.
Again.
You have to do it again. Because
Alright.
I interrupted you.
No. Right. I forgot what I was saying. What I was saying. Oh yes. I'd like to thank him very much for his time, for coming over here and doing the interview with me. I'd also like to thank Angelito for all his help behind the camera. You'll see him in some footage somewhere for all the help he's done. So Angelito, thanks very much. And to the man Spleen, thank you very much for your time, sir.
You're welcome, sir.
Okay, so until next time, see you later.